Okay, students, today we're going to go over section 2.4. It is called scatter plot. This is the last type of graph that we cover in here. So in this chapter, so what is a scatter plot? So if you all have taken college algebra or intermediate algebra, you must have graphed lines or coordinate points. So what you would do is you would be given two variables, an x and a y. And so you would plot those x and y values on a grid. And what you want to do is you want to see if there's a trend. So pretty much, let me give you the definitions of what we're doing. So a scatter plot is a plot of paired XY quantitative data with a horizontal X and Y and X axis and a vertical Y axis. So the horizontal axis is used for the first variable and the vertical axis is used for the second variable. So the purpose of that is to see if there's a trend. That trend is called a correlation. We'll talk about correlation and linear correlations when we cover chapter 10 at the very end of the course. But giving you a heads up, so a correlation exists between two variables when the values of one variable are somehow associated with the values of the other variable. That doesn't imply that one is the cause of the other. That's just saying that there is something going on between those two variables. We don't know what it is, but we have to investigate to see why those two variables are somehow correlated. So I'll give you an example. So uh, in my sociology class that I took a long time ago, we were looking at different variables. And so it come to find out, we noticed that people who eat bread was somehow linked to incarceration. Now I know a lot of you eat a lot of bread, so that does not mean that because you eat a lot of bread, that gives you a higher risk of being incarcerated. So there's some existence relationship between the two variables. We just don't know what it is. So we have to further investigate to see why they're related. We also graph. So a linear correlation exists between two variables when there is a correlation and the plotted points are paired data result in a pattern that can be approximated by a straight line. So when you plot the data, what you want to do is you want to see a trend to see if they form a line. So let me give you uh, some examples of what can occur. So when you plot your x and y, so you plot many x, y coordinates, and you plot them on a grid. Right? So there's three different things that can happen. So one is if you plot all the points and they're all cluttered up and it's forming a line going upward. We say that this has a positive correlation. Right? The number of times you go out and eat at a fast food restaurant and wait, of course, that's going to increase. Or you could have, I forgot, this is your y, this is your x axis, right? Y and x axis. And if you plot all the points and the trend is forming a line that's going downward, then we say that has a negative correlation. Negative. But if all your data are all scattered all over the place, there is no pattern, is just all scattered all across. Then we say that there is no correlation. There is no relationship occurring within the data points. Okay, so we're going to use, what we do is we use StatDisk. Stat. The graph. So pretty much what you're doing is on column 1, you're going to put your X. You put your X variables, your X values. And on column 2, you would go ahead and put the Y values. Now, the thing is, when you're given data, the data given are going to be given in rows. So pretty much your first row is X and your second row is the Y. So you would have to transpose these numbers into a column. So you would put this row and transpose it into a column. You get your Y values and transpose it into a column. And then we'll use that to graph. All right, so let's do a problem from your exercises. And we're going to do number 5 on your exercises on 2-4. So this is problem number 5 on section 2-4. Okay. All right, so let's go to the problem and let's see what we have. So we're going to do number 5. Brain volume and IQ. So the table lists brain volumes, centimeters cubed, cubic centimeters, and IQ scores from 5 males. All right, so here's our data. And they want to know whether or not there's a correlation existence between brain volume and IQ. So notice that the brain volume is the first row, IQ is the second row. So you make the brain volume first because it appears first. That's going to be your X. So we're going to transpose those values into a column. So I'm going to write 1173, underneath that 1067, 1347, 1029, and 1204. So I rewrote, I can't copy it for some reason, it's not letting me. Anyways, I rewrote those numbers in a column. So this is what I have. So there they are. So column 1 is now row 1. So now in column 2, I'm going to write the IQ scores. So my IQ scores were 101. 101 was for the 1173. 93 was for the 1067. 94 was the value for the 1347. 97 was for the value of 1029. And 113 was for the brain volume of 1204. All right, so we can, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I wrote that down in column 2. So now I'm going to type these values into StatDisk column 1, type those numbers. Column 2, I'm going to type those numbers in. And then I'll share with you what to do on StatDisk. All right, so we're going to go to StatDisk. And I'm going to type in the numbers. All right, so here we go. 1173. 1173. I'm going to type in the first row. 1067. 1347. 1029. 1204. And now I'm going to type in the IQs. 101. 93. 94. 97. 113. Okay, now when you type in the last number, make sure that you click somewhere else. You want to make sure that 113 is recorded, because if you just type 113 and you don't click anywhere else, it's not going to record it. So make sure that you type in the last number and then click somewhere else. Okay. Now we're ready to do StatDisk. So what you do is you're going to go to Data. You're going to hit Scatter Plot. You're going to select column 1, since we entered our values in one column. Is your X is column 1. Select column 2. And we hit Plot. And you want to investigate and see how these dots appear. Now, this line is a guiding point. Are all these points surrounding that line? No. So we say that the data for the brain volume and IQ are not correlated, because there's only one number that's kind of close to that orange line. So this one would be a no correlation. Now, if all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 were close to this orange line, then we would say that there is a positive correlation because it's going upward. So StatDisk is pretty cool. It throws a kind of like a guiding line to see if it were correlated, it would form a line of that orange one. So that's how it works. Now, again, when we do StatDisk, right, and you're doing the problems in the book, you have choices. You can either type in the data that's provided for you in the problem, or you can use the data that's loaded up in the data sets. So for this particular problem, number 5, even though we only had 5 observations, there were more you can do. So I can show you where that's at. So it was, if you go to data sets and you go to 6th edition, and you scroll down and look at IQ and brain size. There it is, number 8. You click on it, and boy, oh boy, you have more than 5. You have 20. Not that bad, right? And you want to do a scatter plot for IQ, the volume of the brain and the IQs. Well, here they are. They're the columns, right? They're already preloaded. So if I want to do a scatter plot for volumes and IQ, all you have to do is go to Data, click on Scatter Plot, and you would select brain volume. Right there would be volume, right? Volume, and the second one would be IQ. You click on Plot, and here again, you get it's scattered. So there is no correlation there's no relationship between brain size and IQ. So there's your guiding line. Not all of the points are around that line, so this would be a no correlation. And we'll get into this more in detail when we cover chapter 10. So in the meantime, all you guys have to do is just plot them and then indicate whether or not they are correlated. If they are, if it's positive or negative. If not, you just write down no correlation.